terrorism, and falling oil prices. A reality check for Nigeria's economy? We have the details from Abuja. Steep fees, legal hurdles, physical violence. The challenges faced by hawkers in Nairobi's business district. And the Pope takes on Europe over the treatment of migrants. Africa 54 starts right now.
Hello and welcome. I'm Vincent McCory. This is Africa 54. First to Southern Africa. Namibians voted on Friday to select a new president and members of parliament. Now, the poll is widely expected to deliver a comfortable win for the ruling Southwest People's Organization, or SWAPO, which has won every election since Namibia's independence from South Africa in 1990. Analysts say current Prime Minister Hage Geingob is the man almost certain to be named the next president. Current President Hifikepunye Pohamba is stepping down after 2 terms. Namibian voters will use electronic voting machines for the first time Friday. A rival party leader believes SWAPO will find a way to take advantage of the new voting method.
They just want to vote through the machine, and we should accept that. We say it's too much to ask for us to just accept that, because you are saying you are in charge. And the track record for the last 24 years does not convince us that you can be trusted.
Well, voters will also elect 96 members of the National Assembly. Well, it appears Boko Haram is ramping up its war in northern Nigeria. A bomb exploded outside the Central Mosque in Kano just before Friday prayers. Witnesses say 50 people or more were killed. What is the latest in a string of attacks blamed on Boko Haram? On Thursday, a roadside bomb tore through a bus station, killing 40 people, including 5 soldiers. The blast set several buses on fire at the Marabi-Mubi junction west of Mubi, a town near the Cameroon border. Mubi was seized last month by Boko Haram militants, but has since been recaptured by Nigerian troops. Well, no cause for worry. Nigeria's Finance Minister Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala assures that her country has strategies to deal with falling oil prices even as low as $60 per barrel. We get more from Omolego Nadi of our partner Channels TV in Nigeria.
The event that converged experts and key players in the financial economic sector was the presentation of a master plan for the Nigerian capital market towards global competitiveness. As expected, key issues in the economy came up for discussion, first among them the falling oil prices and the consequences on the economy. The finance minister once again allayed fears of an impending crash.
People should not get fixated on the $73. It's just the midpoint of the range we have. If it falls to $70, we are ready with additional measures. We have organized a set of measures around 73, which I'll talk about. But we have additional measures that will bring in at $70 a barrel. We have further measures at 65, and we have a third set of measures at 60.
The minister also assured that the medium-term strategies to cushion the falling oil prices will prioritize sectors that directly affect the poor and vulnerable.
Infrastructure, because we know it matters to Nigerians, poor and rich, that we have good infrastructure. We'll focus on health and education, because we know that this is the bedrock, again, for our society and matters to the poor. And we will take policy measures. It's not only about money that we put in. Policy measures that stimulate growth, growing sectors, sources of growth in the economy, sources that create jobs, such as agriculture, housing, even the creative industries.
But for most of these strategies to work, a robust capital market that will provide long-term finance for developmental projects is needed. This is what the master plan developed by the Securities and Exchange Commission is set to tackle.
We want a market that is very inclusive, where a majority of Nigerians are participating. We want a bond market that will enable us meet the infrastructure deficit, which the federal government has estimated at $3.9 trillion over the next 30 years. We hope that we can support better entrepreneurship, given that Nigerians are entrepreneurial by nature.
The plans so far announced by these key players in the financial economy are targeted at creating wealth and opportunities for many Nigerians. The finance minister said although the global environment is uncertain, Nigeria has the strategies to cushion the effects. Omelogo Nadi, Channels Television News.
Well, in Sudan, more than 130 people have been killed in tribal clashes in the country's oil-rich region near the border with South Sudan. The Ziyud and Ouled Umran clans have been fighting for several days over disputed land in West Kordofan. Both clans are subgroups of the powerful Arab Nasiriyah tribe. There was no immediate comment from Sudan's government. Well, tributes, condolences and reaction from sports fans around the world continue in the wake of the death of Australian cricketer Philip Hughes. Hughes, who was 25, was struck in the back of the head by a pitched ball while batting last Tuesday. He never regained consciousness and died Thursday at a Sydney hospital. First, we hear from Sri Lankan cricket captain Angelo Matthews.
Well, first of all, we were all, deeply shocked and saddened about this whole incident. It was totally surprising, unexpected. Phil Hughes is a very humble guy, thorough gentleman, and he's a fighter when it comes to cricket. And I think the loss of him will, definitely it's going to be a big loss for cricket. Even though he's an Australian, he's our mate. And, when you lose a friend of yours, it is very difficult to go through. But, I hope and pray that, this such incident we will never ever hear again in the field of cricket or in any other sport.
This is a real reminder to everyone that we can't take anything for granted. We've got to keep trying to improve player safety, even though I think the improvements, even since I've started playing cricket, have gone through the roof in terms of especially helmets and the technology going into there, and we just got to keep working as hard as we can.
I feel really sad because he was my favourite player and he did really good hits and I learnt off him.
Well, the deaths have reignited debate over whether cricket batsmen are wearing enough head protection. Well, now to Kenya, where Nairobi City Council has been accused of brutality in dealing with hawkers in the central business district. Lawmakers say the hawkers are illegally selling their wares on the streets. But viewers Lenny Rovaga reports many don't like the tough, get tough approach.
Hawkers scamper away to escape almost daily raids by Nairobi City Council offices, commonly referred to as askaris. Kenya's capital is home to approximately 3,000 street vendors, many of them without legal permits. Business permits in Nairobi varying in costs from $100 to $1,000, too expensive for the small street vendor. As an alternative, the City Council has designated spots where hawkers can sell their goods for a daily fee of about $1. Here, at this alternative market, there are more vendors than space, and the congestion forces many to sell illegally on the streets. Paul Njoroge has been a street vendor for 5 years and says it's the only way he can make a living and support his family.
In a day, if the City Council doesn't harass us, we can make between $5 and $10. That is enough money, and we don't need to rely on government handouts. For the young hawkers, this is better than turning to crime. We are only trying to make an honest living.
Honest maybe, but still running afoul of city regulations. Askari raids have turned more aggressive over the last few years. Muhian Duati, an official from the Nairobi Central Business District Hawkers Association, or NCBDHA, says the raid tactics are unnecessarily violent.
When we look at issues concerning human rights, the City Council grossly violates these rights when they use brutal force to apprehend hawkers. And it is not only hawkers who get injured. When police do things like hurl broken bottles at the hawkers, bystanders get injured.
Despite repeated efforts to reach out to the Nairobi City Council, the council would not give an official comment on the allegations. Established 4 years ago, the Kenya National Commission of Human Rights, or KNCHR, has now gotten involved in the issue. Kagwiri Mbogori, the KNCHR chairperson, spoke to VOA.
Some of the approaches of the city inspectorate towards the hawkers, I think it has surpassed what is allowable within the legal framework. It is, I would say, irregular amounts of violence to the extent of killing, maiming, or otherwise injuring hawkers.
The KNCHR has registered more than 20 complaints from hawkers in the last year alone and has filed 3 cases with the court for excessive violence. The United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, estimates Kenya's unemployment rate at 40%, with those in informal sector at 70%. Hawking makes up approximately 5% of jobs in Kenya. Lenny Ruvaga for VOA News, Nairobi.
Well, we want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook and check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Coming up, Francis the Formidable. The Pope rebukes the EU's treatment of migrants from Africa and elsewhere. The full story just ahead. Welcome back to Africa 54. I'm Vincent McCory. Now, for U.S. President Barack Obama, the issue of race relations is deeply personal. The recent events in Ferguson, Missouri have prompted Mr. Obama to call for profound changes to end the racism and distrust that he believes still exists between whites and blacks in the United States. The U.S. White House correspondent Luis Ramirez has the story.
The violence in Ferguson caused President Obama to use language more forceful than he has in the past about race, breaking taboos about the issue for Americans, many of whom hoped that having a black president in the White House would mean scenes like these would be a thing of the past. Violence erupted in Ferguson the night the nation learned that white police officer Darren Wilson would not be indicted for fatally shooting Michael Brown, an unarmed black teenager. In appealing for calm, President Obama said the situation in Ferguson speaks to broader challenges still facing the nation.
We need to recognize that this is not just an issue for Ferguson. This is an issue for America. We have made enormous progress in race relations over the course of the past several decades. I have witnessed that in my own life, and to deny that progress, I think, is to deny America's capacity for change. But what is also true is that there are still problems, and communities of color aren't just making these problems up.
Analysts say it is not the pain and anger alone of the demonstrators that prompted Mr. Obama to speak more openly about race relations. With only 2 years left in his term, they say Mr. Obama has less to lose by taking the conversation on race relations a step further. Daniela Gibbs-Leger is a former senior aide to the president.
The political risk, obviously, he's not running for re-election anymore, so that's sort of mitigated. Is there other types of risk? Always, whenever you're talking about race in this country. But I also think that it goes beyond the political risk, and it's something that's very personal to him.
Mr. Obama has spoken passionately on race issues before. In 2012, when black teenager Trayvon Martin was shot and killed in Florida in another racially charged case, the president said Martin could have been his son. This time, the president warned inaction could lead to more tension and violence.
On the other hand, those who are only interested in focusing on the violence and just want the problem to go away need to recognize that we do have work to do here, and we shouldn't try to paper it over.
Michael Fauntleroy is a politics professor at Howard University in Washington. He says that while Mr. Obama's remarks on race are more forceful than before, he questions whether the president was forceful enough.
What happened in Ferguson, Missouri, and the aftermath is something that the president was sort of forced to comment on. So, yes, that is true. He is breaking a taboo. But I hope that now that the taboo is broken, that he will actually do something with it.
When President Obama took office, there were hopes among many Americans, both black and white, that America's race problems would largely go away.
Don't shoot! Don't shoot!
Events in Ferguson show that resolving hundreds of years of racial strife will take more than one man and one presidency. Luis Ramirez, VOA News, at the White House.
Well, Pope Francis is in Turkey for a 3-day visit aimed at strengthening ties between the government and religious leaders. As Turkey is a mostly Muslim nation, the Vatican says the pontiff intends to stress the vast difference between Islam and deadly extremism. He also wants to discuss religious tolerance when he meets with President Erdogan. Francis will also visit the leader of the world's Orthodox Christians, Patriarch Bartholomew. Well, European leaders are still stinging from the Pope's harsh criticism of their migration policies. Well, it comes as a ship carrying 700 migrants arrives in Greece. Henry Ridgwell reports from London.
The cargo ship Baris was towed into Ierapetra harbour on the Greek island of Crete Thursday. The vessel lost power in storm-force winds and was rescued by the Greek Navy. On board, around 700 migrants, exhausted, terrified, but safe. They are being housed in a basketball stadium while their refugee status is assessed. A Greek health official said many are Syrians fleeing the civil war.
There are two groups of migrants. The Syrians, in line with the guidelines from the United Nations, will be released after being verified as they are considered refugees.
Greece is on the front line of the migrant influx. According to European Union rules, the migrants must stay in the country where they first arrive until their asylum claims are assessed. In the capital, Athens, around 150 Syrian migrants began a hunger strike outside the Parliament building Monday. Most paid around $5,000 to illegal smugglers to reach Europe and have nothing left. 22-year-old Ammar says he fled Aleppo in Syria after his father was killed and his brother jailed.
We don't have legal paper, we cannot rent a house, we cannot do anything. So we have to do what the mafia has to pay, at least for one person in one bed for 1 month, €100.
Wedged between the Supreme Court and the Athens police headquarters, this building housed Greek refugees fleeing Turkey after World War I. 85 years later, the crumbling blocks still house those escaping to Europe for a better life, mainly from Syria, Iran, Turkey and Afghanistan.
My country is bloody war for the Taliban. There's a problem. Maybe all people is killed Taliban.
While conflicts in places like Afghanistan and Syria grind on, the refugees will keep coming and Europe must deal with the influx, says Andrej Mahecic of the United Nations High Commission for Refugees.
Ensuring that, first of all, not just the people are rescued, but they are given a proper reception, that the reception facilities are improved. It is also important to understand that this is not just the responsibility of the state where these people disembark, and there needs to be a more concerted effort.
Pope Francis made a similar point Tuesday, criticising Europe's response to the migrant crisis during a speech to the EU Parliament in Strasbourg, France.
The absence of mutual support within the European Union runs the risk of encouraging particularistic solutions to the problem, solutions that fail to take into account the human dignity of immigrants and thus contribute to slave labor and continuing social tension.
The strength of the pontiff's comments surprised many EU lawmakers and added to the growing chorus of demands for reform of Europe's asylum policy. Henry Ridgewell for VOA News, London.
Well, still to come on Africa 54, American shoppers carve out time on Thanksgiving for bargaining hunting. But first, a recap of Friday's headlines. Stay with us.
No matter how much we do, there will never be one policeman for every citizen in this republic.
Welcome back to Africa 54. Here's what's trending. What would Black Friday be without a brawl? Well, a fight over a deeply discounted TV at a Walmart ended with the police separating the determined bargain hunters. The day after Thanksgiving is traditionally one of the heaviest shopping days of the year, with stores slashing prices. Black Friday refers to the day retailers supposedly begin to turn a profit for the year. But a new trend has emerged. Stores opening on Thanksgiving offering shoppers a break from family and a chance to work off turkey and stuffing calories. Well, next up, the Lego toy extravaganza in London. You can see everything from a recreation of the British royal wedding with Will and Kate in doll-sized form to a sprawling replica of London St. Pancras train station, complete with commuters, rails and trains. Well, it's amazing what some people can do with those tiny pieces of plastic. Now, our personal favorite, the Lego version of Westminster Abbey. The exhibit runs through Sunday, but tickets are already sold out. And finally, art meets life in an unusual competition. Well, the co-creators of the Hollywood film The $1 Million Arm launched their latest venture, the $1 Million Bat, in Dubai, a talent search that will see U.S. baseball hitters compete for the chance to play cricket in the Indian Premier League. Well, the search for the $1 Million Bat will take place in June 2015. The movie $1 Million Arm is about a sports agent who stages an unconventional recruitment strategy to get talented Indian cricket players to play Major League Baseball. And that is what is trending today. Well, President Obama's African grandmother came to the U.S. this month to raise money for a $12 million school and hospital center in Kogelo, Kenya, the birthplace of the president's father. Sarah Obama was also honored for her decades of work to aid poor Kenyans. VOA's Caroline Weaver reports from the United States.
The only surviving grandparent of U.S. President Barack Obama, 94-year-old Mama Sarah Obama, as she prefers to be called, is visiting the United States from Kenya. Education is her chief cause, so a visit to a New York City school was on the itinerary. She spoke to the children through her interpreter.
And you work hard in school, so you can be great.
As a video made by her foundation shows, Mama Sarah Obama, who was a stepmother to Mr. Obama's father, Barack Obama Sr., has long worked to help poor widows and orphans in Kenya. She told a UN audience that as a girl, she was never even taught to read.
Yeah. She said she never went to school. She was denied education, but she loves education. So that's why all her kids, she made them go to school, even Barack Obama Sr. Because when they learn, that's when they can be self-sufficient. They can help themselves. That's why she wants every child to study, not just hers. That's why she's taking up all these orphans.
Mama Sarah Obama received a Women's Entrepreneurship Day Award at the UN for her foundation, which is planning to build a school campus and hospital in her Kogelo, Kenya community. The foundation says so far it has raised nearly half of the $250,000 needed for the first building, an early childhood education center. Carolyn Weaver, VOA News, New York.
Well, and that's our show for today. Sunny Young will be back with sports on Monday. Now be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. We leave you now with tonight's music maker, Oliver Mutukudzi from Zimbabwe. The song is called To the Woman We Share. Oliver, his son, wrote it as a tribute to his wife and mother of his children.
I'm Millar Sega. I'm the host of VOA's The Correspondents, a roundup of the world's top stories with analysis from our dedicated reporters. It's really a conversation the same way that you would bring a friend to your home and ask them what's going on. And our correspondents will do that and answer those questions through their own eyes.
That appears a false choice in more ways than one.
We can't actually put you there, but we can come pretty close. In 30 minutes, we'll show you the world.
We are able to touch on things that are important to people on an everyday basis. Hello and welcome. I'm Vincent McCory. This is Africa 54. In a lively half hour, news, sports, health, lifestyle information, comments from our viewers. Africa 54, the best for Africa, about Africa. Join us only on VOA.